Something changed the day President Trump returned to office for his second term, and the world felt it. Not just in Washington, not just on Wall Street, but from Berlin to Beijing, from Sao Paulo to Johannesburg, nations everywhere began recalculating. Suddenly, the old rules didn't apply. Centuries of diplomacy and decades of free trade were tossed into uncertainty as Trump reignited a fiery, unilateral campaign against America's trading partners. This wasn't just political posturing. It was a direct hit to the heart of global economic order. Under Trump's America First agenda, tariffs became weapons, allies became targets, and the assumption that the U.S. would always champion stability? That illusion was shattered. Today, the world isn't just reacting to a president. It's reimagining its future. Before we dive deeper into how global alliances are shifting, take a second to like this video and share it with someone who needs to understand what's really going on behind the headlines. It helps us reach more people like you and keep this channel growing. If the world were a single person, you might say it went through the 5 stages of grief in response to Trump's second-term policies. Yes, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and ultimately, acceptance. At first, the world blinked. Was the U.S. really cozying up to Russia before Ukraine negotiations even started? Would Trump truly sideline NATO and impose tariffs on allies like Canada and Germany? Surely, this was just talk. But it wasn't. Trump didn't just break protocol, he broke assumptions. Ukraine, instead of being supported, became a pawn. Concessions were made to Putin without conditions. Allies watched in disbelief. That disbelief turned into fury. Nations felt betrayed. Suddenly, the talk wasn't about how to work with the U.S. It was about how to protect against it. Europe began considering decoupling defense and trade policies. Countries started to whisper about Plan B, in case the U.S. could no longer be trusted. There was a moment, brief but real, when countries tried to negotiate, tried to keep things from spiraling. They made concessions. They played by the old rules. And they got burned. Canada gave in on key trade terms only to be slapped with a new 35% tariff days later. Europe faced similar treatment. Bargaining wasn't rewarded, it was punished. The truth hit hard. Trump's policies weren't about mutual benefit. They were about leverage, about winning at all costs, even if it meant burning bridges that had been built over generations. And finally, countries reached the point of acceptance, not of Trump's tactics, but of the need to move on. A new chapter had to be written, one where the world didn't revolve around Washington. Trump's strategy was straightforward, but brutal. Forget win-win. This was win-lose, and the U.S. was always supposed to win. Tariffs were his favorite tool. Remember Canada's 35% tariff? It came right after they thought they'd reached common ground. Europe got hit with a 30% tariff mid-negotiation. These weren't bargaining chips, they were punishments. No deal ever felt final. No negotiation felt safe. That kind of unpredictability breaks trust. Faced with this chaos, the rest of the world didn't sit still. Nations began to look elsewhere, not out of spite, but out of survival. The EU moved quickly. Within months, it signed a trade agreement with Indonesia slashing tariffs. It accelerated talks with India, Brazil, South Africa, even tiny economies that might have once seemed too small to matter. The goal? Diversify, reduce dependency on the U.S., and open up to new partnerships. Latin America and Asia are linking arms. Brazil and India committed to boosting trade by 70%. Mexico and Vietnam are deepening ties. The new trend? South-South cooperation. It's not just about the West anymore. China, ever strategic, stepped in. While some nations are cautious about Beijing's motives, many see China as more stable than Washington right now. And it's showing. African students are learning Mandarin at record rates. Yet, others, like the EU, are wary of swapping one superpower for another. The idea of building trade structures that exclude both the US and China is gaining traction. What do you think about this global shift? Are countries right to move away from relying on the US? Or is this just a short-term reaction? Drop a comment. We want to hear what you think and discuss it with the community. Some hoped BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, would step up and present a united front. But even that's proven complicated. The group has flirted with challenging the US dollar, but pulling it off is a massive undertaking. And Trump's team? They're not playing nice. Countries seen aligning with BRICS have faced new tariffs and political heat. So instead, most are choosing quiet resistance, slowly building new trade ties and backup plans without waving a red flag. Many call it boiling the orange-skinned frog, a not-so-subtle reference to Trump. Instead of sudden rebellion, countries are carefully, quietly, and consistently moving away from U.S. dominance. It's not fast, but it's steady. As the U.S. cuts funding for research and exits international science programs, talent is fleeing. Countries like Germany, South Korea, and even India are welcoming disillusioned American scientists. China is going further, aggressively recruiting, funding labs, and offering tech startups what Silicon Valley used to. This isn't just about trade. It's about global leadership in innovation, ideas, and influence. It's not just researchers leaving. Even military buyers are rethinking. Once loyal U.S. customers are turning to alternatives, from Turkish drones to French jets. The message? No one wants to be held hostage to tariffs or threats. Trump's administration may be celebrating these one-sided wins, but they've missed the bigger picture. The world is taking notes. And it's building a new system where U.S. dominance is no longer guaranteed. The assumption in D.C. seems to be, they'll always come back. But that's changing. Nations are learning to live without America, and in some cases, thrive. The future isn't about one superpower replacing another. It's about balance. About India trading with both China and the U.S. About Brazil engaging with Europe and Africa. About the world refusing to pick sides. Even within BRICS, we see tension. India and Brazil don't want to be pawns in AU.S. China power game. They want to chart their own course. What we're witnessing is a quiet revolution, not with fireworks or dramatic announcements, but with trade agreements, student visas, scientific exchanges, and bilateral defense deals. The next world order won't be written by one man in a golden tower. It'll be shaped by dozens of nations making small, smart decisions, together. Trump may have thrown the match, but the fire now burns beyond his control. If you found this breakdown helpful and want more content that dives into the big picture shifts shaping our future, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And as always, thank you for watching.